So while we were discussing about the assembler directives, we have to understand there is one point that we haven't discussed till now is the process called as assembling. Now assembling means what? Assembling is the process of converting this assembly language into the machine language using assembler. So we have to know that assembler is converting this assembler would convert this source code, that is what the code, that is our assembly language, that assembly language assembler would convert into the machine language. So that process of conversion of this assembly language into machine language by the assembler is called as the assembling process. Okay, now we have to understand here is the overall flow, that is you have to understand this main overall flow. That is, first we have the source code. In the first step is the source code. This source code is what which is written by the programmer, which contains write a program in assembly language using mnemonics and directives. So that is, using this directives and mnemonics, the programmer would write a assembly language code, that is in the source code. The assembler, what it will do, assembler would read that code and it will convert that into the machine code, that is convert that instructions into opcode, uses directives to organize the memory. So assembler, what it does that it would first thing that it does is that it is the one who is going to convert this into the machine code, that is a binary code. So first it converts that instruction into opcode. So the first thing that it do is that it convert this two things that you have to understand. Assembler does that instruction, that is this assembly language instruction, it will convert it into the opcode. That is the first thing that it does. And the second thing that it does is that it uses the directives. So this source code contains the mnemonics and directives, right? That is a programmer code. The programmer writes a code, assembly language code, that contains the directives and the mnemonics. Now the assembler, what it will do is that we have two things it does. The first, the instruction that it goes, it would convert that into the opcode, and the second thing is that it uses this directives which is present in that code, uses this directives. Why it uses this directive? It uses this directive to organize the memory. So to organize the memory, it uses the directives. That is the two things the assembler does. And this is next is the object file. Then what happens is that the output of the assembler would be some object file. Okay, output of the assembler is an object file, that is .o file you will get. This object file contains the machine code, the symbol table and memory information. So what does this object file contain? The object file contains what? The machine code. It contains this machine code, the table, the symbol table. It contains a symbol table, right? It contains information about the symbol, that is what written here, symbol table, machine code, and it also contains what? Memory informations. So the three things that is present, that is data location, is the memory information. So the object file contains what? So object file is the output of the assembler, which is the .o file, which contains the machine code. It contains the machine code, the symbols table, and the memory information. Now there is a linking. Linking is the linger, which you can say it actually combines this multiple object files with the libraries, and it produces a final executable file. So linker would combine all of these object files, this multiple object files, with their respective libraries. It would combine them and will produce the final executable program. So in the execution time, this executable file is loaded into the memory and it is run by the processor. So finally the executable file will be loaded into the memory and it is run by the processor. So the first thing that it does is that you have the source code with you. That source code would be converted to what? The source code that is basically there. The source code contains a program which is written by the programmer, that is the assembly language, which is containing the assembly language as well as all of the directives. Now assembler would convert this into the machine language, right? It would convert this into its corresponding opcode, and by using the directives it would arrange the memory organization. It will do. Then the result of this assembler would be an object file, and that object file contains the machine code. Three things I told you the object file contains. It contains the machine code, the memory information, and the symbol table. Then after that, when you finally get the object file, then you have the linker, which is linking the multiple object files with the libraries, and you get a final executable program. That final executable program is basically in the execution part. It will be loaded into the memory and and it would be run by the processor. So this is the step, the source.s or c. You have the assembly language code. The assembler would convert into an object file. Using the linker, it would be converted into an executable file, which would be loaded into the memory and it would be run by the processor. So these are the assembling method. So this is about the assembler directives part. Thank you.